Wisp Sports Radio, the voice of women in sport.
This is Season 2, Episode 7 of Ruck on Wisp Sports, brought to you by Highland Earache Drops.
Earaches are one of the primary causes for doctor visits, with over 30 million visits per year. After you've been diagnosed with an earache by a physician, try Highland's homeopathic earache drops and tablets. Highland's homeopathic ear drops and tablets provide natural relief to help you get back to doing what you love. Visit highlands.com/ear-pain to find a retailer near you. Claims are based on traditional homeopathic practice, not accepted medical evidence, not FDA evaluated. Read and follow label directions.
I'm here today with Poppy. How are you doing, Poppy?
Good, thank you.
Today we're going to touch on the Sevens World Cup, which Poppy was at. Have a look at what's going on in the UK, and Poppy's going to highlight Spain for us today. So Poppy, I believe you're back into training right now. Is that correct?
Yep, so back into pre-season training, which is a huge couple of training weeks until our season starts. I think it's the 8th or the 9th of September. So we've got, I can't believe it's August already, but we've got 5 weeks to go. The girls have been training hard for about 3 weeks now. And I come back into the fold this week, and I'm struggling to move, and I can't really get upstairs. But I think I'm getting punished with like double sessions or something, because it's pretty painful at the moment. But it's good to be back and running, to be fair. And at Sarries, because I've obviously still signed for Sarries this season. I've got a really good strength and conditioning coach, and he's got a good plan. And you can see some of the girls are really training well, and actually some of them go to the under-20s tournament in Canada, where they play like America, Canada and England, and they're looking pretty fit right now, so it'd be good to get actually watch them
exciting,
see how they get on. But yeah,
so we never had too much preseason. We might have started about a month out, but even then it seemed kind of like our attendance was negotiable, I'll put it that way. Yeah, so just because we typically had like the full club season like you guys through the fall, through the winter, and then, you know, all of our international games, and then we would have provincial games as well through the summer. When preseason got going, that was kind of like our window to have a break.
Yeah, it always feels crazy for the Canadians. They always seem to be playing rugby, because some of them, your seasons are different as well. So when it's some of your guys off season, it's not the others. That's
right. So BC kind of follows your season. We play through the winter just because our temperature is milder, so we can, and everyone else can't really afford to do that in the snow and minus 40-degree weather. So they have a compressed season from April till typically end of August, because a lot of those athletes are in university, so they'll go back and play for universities in September. So yeah, those athletes get the winter off from actually playing. Obviously they're still training, but I would take our preseason off essentially, and I wouldn't play in August. I'd show up in September. But yeah, I think it's really interesting that, like, in my mind, I would say, like, just for club, you guys start your preseason 2 months out. Like, that's huge, but I think also speaks to the level that you guys are now playing at in your club divisions.
Yeah, I think that now the RFU have like invested a lot of money in the league, and we've got a title sponsor. There's quite like a lot of responsibility on us, kind of like not to like make it work, if that makes sense. So we've got to put the effort in.
Sure.
The reward sort of thing. So at the moment,
yeah, it's like almost. I mean, I'm not going to use the word professional, but like it's gone beyond amateur. And so you kind of want to continue that relationship. Is that right?
Yeah, we want to like continue people investing in us. They're like, if it's not their money they're investing in us, it's their time and effort. So we want to keep that going. So we've got to, give something back, put on some good performances, and make people sit up and listen. If that's the word.
Yeah, great. I love it. I'm sitting up, Poppy. And then for England, what's happening there? I saw BBC had put out an article a couple of days just talking about 15s and 7s possibly becoming professional for women. I'm sure there's still lots of conversations going on, but where do you feel like that might go for England's women's rugby?
Yeah, so on BBC Sport, I think our CEO of the RFU came out and said that they're hoping to make 7s and 15s both professional at the same time, which before in England, it's only ever been 7s or 15s and never both really at the same time. So it's good that he's got this vision that he wants us to be, because at the moment we've got the likes of France going professional, and Scotland just announced that they've made 5 new players professional. So I think that brings them up to 8 or something in 15s. So, for England, I'm sure they're trying their hardest to make us professional, but now they've got the Tyrrell's League. We could see maybe Tyrrell's Premiership players becoming professional, or it could be the England players becoming professional. At the moment, I think they just want to make sure there's a high number of players who could potentially become professional, rather than just making it exclusively 20 professional players, and there being a huge gap for the next player, sort of thing. So it's a bit of in limbo at the moment.
But an exciting possibility, yeah. You mentioned that gap. Did you find that existed previously? Like you said, 7s was professional, 15s was professional. Did you find that there ended up being quite a significant divide between kind of the haves and the have-nots?
I think that obviously I've been in that position where you look on the EPS and you just think it's so far away, because they're getting to train together all the time, they're getting all the support, and if you weren't in that top 30 or top 20, you wouldn't get any support. And it just felt like you had no chance of getting in, becoming that top 30, if you weren't getting that little bit of support. So at the moment, when they're going to give that support out to everyone, so for example, now 60 players in each club have S&C support, have physio, have doctor, have one-on-one time with a full-time coach. It means that the 60 more people have the opportunity, because to play at elite level, you're never going to be able to play at elite level if you don't train with an S&C coach, if you don't get regular physio. And I think they're finally identifying that and being like, wait, can't ignore these people because we're too invested in 30 people. We've got to, open it up and have a bigger player base.
Yeah, that's incredible, and I think it's great that so many athletes have access to that. And I think by the time they get to the national selection process, they're just showing up with so much more. Sometimes you'll have athletes come out and you can see the potential, but maybe haven't been training, or as you say, haven't had access to strength and conditioning, or haven't had access to regular treatment. So yeah, I can only imagine that the level that's showing up at all your recruitment camps and training camps becomes higher and higher.
Makes it harder for us to keep our spots.
Yeah, that's good. That's healthy, Poppy. Don't get too complacent in there. Yeah, you're right. It's always easier to keep that spot than be fighting for the spot above you mentally anyways. Once you get there, you're kind of like, oh, I did so much work getting here, but as you say, you can't shut off, because there's so much great talent coming up behind you.
Yeah, and they're so young as well, so that's why this under-20s tournament, obviously in Canada. To be fair, I can't wait to see what Canada and America bring out, because their players, their young players are getting pretty good as well. So it'd be an interesting tournament.
Mm-hmm. For us, just the country being so vast, what we end up seeing often, I find, is one province will kind of implement a new plan and be very focused and find some resources to help them grow rugby within their province. And so you may see an influx of players from the province. So, for example, a couple of years ago, Quebec implemented a multi-year plan of how they wanted to grow youth rugby, and they had coaching clinics where they had all the coaches come, and so they could be teaching skills in the same way with the same language. And so as athletes moved on, there wasn't that gap in between. And then we saw that influx of players coming into the national program as well. We've seen that previously in Alberta, And so for us, again, just the country being so big, I think it's hard for everyone to get on the same page. But yeah, we have those little spurts here and there. And I think we see that first, like you were saying, in the U20 program. For us, we tend to focus on the youth part, and we'll see that emerge through the U20. And if there's success there, then they can move on to the national program.
Wisp Sports Radio.
So I'm going to switch sports a little bit here, Poppy. You were in San Francisco. You were in San Fran watching the Sevens. You did a couple of Facebook Live feeds. You met up with our buddy Maria, who used to do the show as well. Tell us about some highlights for the Sevens World Cup.
Oh, a couple of highlights. Yeah, so I did some Facebook Lives, that's probably a highlight. So they're still on the Facebook if you want to check them out. The first one's not so great because I think I zoomed in on a couple of people's foreheads and got it upside down and back to front, but I think we worked it out by the second and third attempt. Yeah, so it was pretty good. I think the biggest surprise that came out of the Women's Sevens World Cup was France. So just them, I think they came in at ranked about fifth or sixth, and they got to the final and gave New Zealand a run for the money in the first half. New Zealand kind of ran away with it in the second, and I think that everyone, I don't know, can't remember who you predicted, but I predicted Australia to win and they came third, so it wasn't so great on my prediction part. But I think most people assumed New Zealand would win and they proved everyone right. But yeah, France were the biggest surprise of the tournament. My homegrown England players, we came in ranked, they had it rough. We came in ranked 8th, we finished 9th, which doesn't look a disaster really on paper, but I think we had high aspirations considering the results we've had in big major tournaments. So I think 9th, the bowl winners, and the worst result in a World Cup I think ever. So looking back, I think I have a nice review to do. And then when I was actually doing a little bit of research and I looked at their rankings, it was actually surprising that Fiji came in ranked 6th and finished, I think it was 12th. So they were the biggest droppers in the whole tournament, which I was actually surprised about. Because they played well and they were very unlucky to lose to Spain in the first game, and then also unlucky to lose to was it China in the semi-final for the plate. So Japan, yeah.
Yeah, and like as you say, like they're always a very competitive side. Yeah, it was a close game against Japan. It was just they lost 14-15.
Yeah, so I was like, I felt a bit sorry for them that they got, with the new format of being a knockout, I think they got it the worst because they came so close to making it into the top 8.
Yeah. And the format itself a little bit contentious. So as you say, it was knockout, so it was do or die. And I know I've seen things that are in favor of this and some things that aren't in favor of this. I think either way makes it very exciting for the fans. Makes it a bit nerve-wracking for the teams, obviously. And I think, even though sevens tournaments are such short tournaments, I know that Australia, for example, like they played kind of their best team for the most part throughout the tournament. A couple athletes didn't get much playing time. And I'm sure that was the case for some other teams as well, especially who maybe lacked a little bit more depth. And so, yeah, I think it's really interesting, exciting for us to watch, but I'm curious to know, I think mostly from a coaching standpoint, how those coaches feel about it. They kind of have to change their tactics a little bit, and you don't really have the opportunity to save legs.
Yeah, I haven't really seen any coaches come out and speak about the new, women's coaches come out and speak about that format. A couple of men's coaches are a bit displeased about it, but a couple of things I heard was that they like the fact that it's different to the Olympics. So the Olympics they go to groups and then obviously quarterfinal knockouts. They like the fact that it's just not mirroring a kind of an Olympic setup 2 years apart from each other. It's a completely different game, which is good. And then for the players, I don't think they like it. But as fans watching the stadium, a tournament which is groups then knockout, you really get that build up into the quarterfinals, the semi-finals, and the whole stadium's kind of like building into the bigger games. Whereas this, it was kind of like a slow, kind of it was all the same sort of pace. So it never had that really like spike that you were like, and there were so many games, you're like, right, which game's this? Is this a semi-final or is this a quarterfinal? It wasn't really announced that well, but you know, people around you, by talking to people, you found out what sort of game this was. But yeah, I think they need to work on that, maybe announce it a little bit better. But it's just got a little bit of a different feel about it. But then you were so excited from the moment you walked in the stadium on Friday and that was the first knockout game. You're already on the edge of your seat.
Yeah, that's the exciting part. Yeah, that's interesting from someone who was actually there, and like you say, you kind of felt the energy of the spectators.
But you just didn't have that build up.
That's interesting. And so I think my prediction was New Zealand. I went with the safe choice, but I think my second was Canada. We didn't do as well as we have in previous tournaments. And actually, France, being the exciting team they were this tournament, took us out in the quarters, I believe. What do you think kind of changed for France in this tournament? I mean, they haven't been in the top 4, I'd say, for the last few tournaments. What do you think changed for them?
I know it's pretty frustrating. I feel for France all year. They've not been up there top 4. You know, no one's been looking at them. I thought it'd been pretty excited if they could have brought their form from that tournament into the whole season, and we could have had like an Australia, New Zealand, France sort of mix for every tournament. But just Australia and New Zealand were way out front. I think by the time the World Cup came, no one was even thinking about France. No one was even looking at them. They do relish just knockout games, so I think they struggled to get up for group games. But yeah.
Just my impression of French teams, and this will be a bit stereotypical, is they're either on or they're really not on. And so having played against their 15 side multiple times, you can feel when they have that energy and they're on a roll and they're moving forward and they're making positive things happen. But then you can also feel that shift when things start to unwind for them. They really unwind, and I don't know if you feel the same way having played against them as well. And so. Yeah, I find any French team that I've watched, I kind of get the similar vibe where they make some really spectacular things happen, and they play a whole another level, or just like it's not happening, and they're a good side, but not in the top. And so yeah, I think it's really exciting that France rose to this challenge and they made it happen.
Yeah, exactly. They had some really good young talent in there, and I think they were pretty lucky with injuries. So they got quite a few people back from injuries, and they didn't have much of a big injury list. So they got to pick their top 12 players, and they just brought it on the day, and they scored on the final play to beat Australia, which is pretty impressive in a World Cup semi-final. To execute that last play and to beat the Olympic champions.
Absolutely.
For France.
Switching gears a little bit, I believe you have a team focus for us for this episode.
Yeah, I got team of the month. So after the World Cup, I thought, which team can I do? And I was pretty impressed with how Spain did at the 7. So
all right,
they had their best ever finish at a World Cup in the last one, which was 4th, and this one they nearly matched it but came 5th, which I think is pretty impressive for a little team in Europe. And I've been just like looking them up on Wikipedia and stuff and seeing how rugby is in Spain, and they've got 200 club teams, which is not a bad amount to start with.
For such a small country, yeah.
Yeah, I was also interested to see in 1995 they actually founded the first European Championship with France, which surprised me because I thought it'd be obviously like an English team or someone like that. But no, they founded the first ever European Championship, and they won it. So they were the first ever European champions, which is pretty impressive.
Exciting, yes.
Yeah, I know. I was pretty impressed by that. And then looking at their like sort of World Cup history, they've qualified for every World Cup bar 2. They came 10th in the last World Cup, which it also impresses me how well their 7th team does every World Cup, because their 15s is sort of ranked regularly in the top 10 in the world, but their 7s is ranked top 5, and they're the second best European 7 side. So they're obviously doing something right. Or and looking at the sort of players they've been putting out each week, and there's one player that stood out, I think, and she's called Barbara Pla. She's the most capped 7s player ever for Spain. She's the second most capped 15s player. So to play both codes for your country and get an incredible amount of caps is a big deal. And I think at the moment, their captain's the most capped player, Ario Gonzalez. He's their hooker. So I don't know. Have you ever played Spain?
I'm trying to think. When I was at the 2010 World Cup, I believe they were not there. And then 2000,
No, they didn't.
yeah, 2014. I don't know. I don't think that I personally ended up playing them. I mean, I have watched them, and they are an exciting side. But yeah, no, I don't think I personally have had the pleasure. Yeah.
We played in the opening fixture of the World Cup just gone, and that was a pretty good game, open game. They're quick, they're fast. They like to move the ball. Sometimes their skills let them down right at that last moment, but they've got a really good setup. And then I remember they scored I think it was Patricia Garcia scored a long distance kick and scored a try in the corner. I think it made the game really close when we played them in the opening game of the World Cup. But then luckily we kind of pulled away in the second half. But yeah, it was a really tough game, and we knew we'd been in a battle. So yeah, looking at Spain, I was actually quite impressed and interested in their history, and that's quite unlucky for them. They used to be in when it was called the Five Nations, but to mirror the men, we became the Six Nations, and then lost Spain, and it obviously became Italy. And they take great pride when they go to a World Cup and they beat a Six Nations team, because they probably rightfully
they feel like they should be there.
Yeah, they should be there, but unfortunately for them, we seem to follow the men in whatever we do, and that means Spain. But they still play in European Championships quite regularly, and they actually won the double of the Sevens European Championship and the 15s European Championship in 2010, the year they actually failed to qualify for a World Cup. So I think that was a bit of injustice they felt on their part.
Yeah, and as you say, they've always kind of been in the mix. They've always been a competitive side, but just not quite towards the top. But like you said, you felt them in the last World Cup and felt their threat. Yeah, it sounds like they've had a very consistent performance over the decades.
Yeah, I was just surprised in the history of the team. They feel like they're quite proud as well. So when you play against them, you can never underestimate a Spanish team. I played them for England A's as well, and they beat us 17-7 or something. And yeah, you can never underestimate it.
Excellent. Well, thank you. Yeah, that's a great look at Spain, and I can't wait to find out who you're going to chat about for our next episode.
Who do you want me to chat about, Kim?
I don't know. Let's keep it mysterious.
Okay, just surprise.
Yeah, exactly. I like the element of surprise. And then I always end up learning something new about some of my favorite rugby teams. So yeah, we'll keep the surprise element, Poppy.
Conversations from the world of women's sports. This is Wisp Sports Radio. Wisp.
That's all for this episode. Poppy, when are you back in training?
Well, I'm in the midst of everything, and I'm just looking forward to we get a couple of preseason games, and I think again, like I said, the first game's on the 9th of September, and so it's just from now, and I'm just fully immersed in the rugby season already, which is kind of good because I was getting withdrawals, but back in it now, and I'm excited to get stuff to talk about. I think actually because we'd get away from the sevens and start talking about 15s, because that's what I'm all about. A bit jealous of the sevens actually. They get to fly around the world and go to all these exciting places.
They have such an exciting circuit, hey?
Don't they? If only I wish I was a little bit quicker, a little bit fitter. I could join in the fun, but I'm stuck at 15, so I can't wait to have a couple of things to talk about in the 15s game. And
never stop dreaming, Poppy. Never stop dreaming. All right, thanks so much, Poppy, and we'll chat with you for our next episode. Thanks to our sponsor. You can visit them at highlands.com/ear-pain. And you can follow us on social media at Wisp Sports, myself at Kimmy Donaldson. And Poppy, tell us about your social media.
Twitter, it's Poppy_G_C, and Instagram is PoppyCLE. Instagram's where you're going to find all the hot posts.
Oh, all right.
Exciting posts.
I'll look for those hot posts. Okay.
And any holiday snaps. Holiday snaps as well on Instagram.
Hot posts, holiday snaps.
Reggie, if you want to find out about Reggie, he's on Instagram.
Great. We should definitely check out Poppy's Instagram then. All right, thanks, Poppy. We'll talk to you next time.
Thank you.